Recently, I showed what I think would be the best start to your fantasy drafts if you're drafting from the early position. So now, let's check it out from the middle position. But once again, I'm going to assume a 12-team league, 2 running backs, 2 wide receiver, 1 QB, 1 tight end, 1 flex, full PPR, as this is the most common format. Before I get to the first picks, I got to remind you, flockfantasy.com/endgame is where you want to be if you want to dominate in fantasy this year and you want to have a chance to play fantasy against us and win straight cash. That's right, we're filling up our final Dynasty League. 5 spots left to members of flockfantasy.com/endgame, but we're also going to be doing redraft leagues with cash prizes. You're also going to get access to our bonus articles, videos, live streams, rankings, plus endgame swag. Check it out. Flockfantasy.com/endgame is where you need to be this fantasy season. All right, let's start with round 1. And in that last video, if you saw it, I recommended not taking a running back early, grabbing one of the elite wide receivers, and then grabbing one of the very good running backs that came back to us. But I'm going to recommend the opposite here. I'm going to say this is where I like grabbing a running back. So if one of Christian McCaffrey happens to fall here, obviously we know he's a stud in a great offense. We know what he can do, just got to stay healthy. Also love Austin Eckler here. Going to be back with the Chargers. Not much should be different. They didn't do anything at running back. He's playing for incentives, playing for a contract next year. Love Austin Eckler. And of course, my guy, Bijan Robinson, the one I would prefer, rookie running back in a smash spot, ready to break fantasy football. Any one of those running backs I'd be happy with at this spot. Now, if you don't want to go running back here, or if you miss out on one of these running backs, the wide receiver I'm taking is CeeDee Lamb. I know people are going to say, oh, Stephon Diggs, or oh, A.J. Brown. Give me CeeDee Lamb. This guy's an absolute stud, entering the prime of his career. I've talked about it many times, how this Dallas offense is going to be different. It's going to be a better offense for CeeDee Lamb. And this guy was the wide receiver 4 in the games Dak Prescott played from week 7 on, behind only Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, and Tyreek Hill last year. Massive upside this year. Love CeeDee Lamb. Now let's go to round 2, and hopefully you took one of the running backs in round 1, because we're going to have some great wide receivers falling to us here. Wide receivers like Jalen Waddle, who's an absolute stud in a great Miami offense. As long as Tua stays healthy, Waddle has tremendous weekly upside. Or Chris Olave, a guy I love. I think Chris Olave is going to be an absolute monster this year. I've talked about him multiple times. Would love to have him as my wide receiver 1. Or Devonta Smith, who broke out huge last year in a great offense, tied to Jalen Hurts. You got to love Devonta Smith. Or even T. Higgins here, who people say, oh, but Jamar Chase, it doesn't matter. Even with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins has been awesome. This guy is a stud. If this guy was on almost any other team, he'd be an alpha wide receiver. So if I start running back in round 1, I would love any of these wide receivers here. If you didn't get one of the running backs in round 1, you probably want to consider running back here. And there's going to be some good running backs here, like Jonathan Taylor, who should not be going this late. I know he burned everybody last year, but this is still an elite running back in his prime. Going to have tremendous touches this year, tremendous touchdown upside. I'll gladly take Jonathan Taylor here. Or Tony Pollard, who now is basically the clear workhorse running back in Dallas. And we saw over the second half last year what this guy is capable of. No Zeke there. No one really to challenge him. He should be a monster. Or even Derrick Henry, who we know if he stays alive and doesn't break is going to get tons of volume, have tremendous weekly touchdown upside. Any one of these guys would be great as your RB1 if you went wide receiver in the first round. Now let's go to round 3. And like I mentioned in the last video, I'm going to either target an elite quarterback here or I'll grab a tight end. And the quarterbacks that are usually still around in this range would be Josh Allen. We know this guy every year is an absolute stud. I think they're going to work it out with Diggs. He'll be back. We'll see more of the same. And we know this guy has tremendous rushing upside. Also, Lamar Jackson, another guy, tremendous rushing upside. Got the contract. I think he's going to be motivated. He'll play through those nagging little injuries. This offense is going to be dynamic and different with Todd Monken. Love Lamar this year. If Justin Fields is still here, I'll gladly grab Justin Fields. That rushing upside, 1,100 rushing yards last year. If this passing offense gets a little better, which it will, they brought in DJ Moore, he could smash. Now, if I don't get one of those QBs, this is where I will try to target a tight end. If Mark Andrews is here, I think Mark Andrews in the 3rd round, tremendous value. I just talked about it with Lamar. I think this offense is going to be way different. I think we see a big bounce back year from Mark Andrews this year. So if he's here, I'm grabbing him. All right, now on to round 4. And in this range here, there's just a ton of wide receivers I love. I'm just going to recommend you grab your wide receiver 2 here because I think any of these guys could have great seasons this year. Let's start with DJ Moore. I just talked about him with Justin Fields. He's going to be the clear alpha wide receiver in here. This passing offense will be better. And Justin Fields was very accurate in college. I love DJ Moore this year. Also really like Christian Kirk here. I know people are worried about Calvin Ridley, taking targets, but Kirk was great. this passing offense is going to be even better. Trevor Lawrence probably going to take another step forward. Give me all the Christian Kirk. And how about another Christian Watson? I know there's some concern with Jordan Love, but we saw it last year. Tremendous weekly upside for Christian Watson. No reason to think that will change. Love him in the spot. Then another guy, I keep talking about him, Drake London. If Drake London is still on the board, I'm smashing it every time. The Falcons will pass enough, and really it's just him and Kyle Pitts. They don't need to throw the ball 40 times to support two guys. Loving Drake London here. And then a guy, not my favorite option, Terry McLaurin. I know a lot of you guys love him though, and there is a path here with Eric Bieniemy being there and Sam Howell. Maybe this is the year that this offense finally opens up and throws the ball more and actually has a good passing attack. So I guess he's worth considering here. And then finally, Mike Williams, who everybody hates to draft because, I don't know, he gets hurt all the time. But this guy has massive weekly ceiling, can win you weeks multiple times a year. And this offense with Kellen Moore is going to throw the ball down the field more, which is only going to benefit Mike Williams. So any of those guys, I'd be fine with as my wide receiver too. Now in round 5, you're going to have a couple choices here. You can either get your flex and draft another wide receiver, or you can get your RB2. And there's a couple guys I like if you go the flex route. First of all, Brandon Ayuk had a nice breakout year last year in year 3. Should only be another step forward this year, becoming the #1 target, the #1 wide receiver in this offense. I also really like Marquise Brown. I just recently talked about him and talking about Kyler Murray. I think we see more Kyler Murray this year than people think. I think he's ready week 1 or week 2. Hollywood Brown will be a target monster in an offense that's going to have to throw the ball a ton because their defense is terrible. If you want to go the running back route, I love J.K. Dobbins in this spot. I keep talking about him in almost every video. I think he's going to smash this year. This is one of those rare opportunities where talent and opportunity collide. Draft J.K. Dobbins. And also, I'm okay with Kenneth Walker here if he falls this far. People worried about Zach Charbonnet. I'm a little worried about Zach Charbonnet, I'm not going to lie. But I still think this is great value for Kenneth Walker. He's a workhorse, has home run potential. As your RB2, more than fine. Right now on to round 6, and you really have some options here depending on what you've done. You can either go with your RB2 if you went with flex in the previous round. You can go with your flex if you went with RB2 in the previous round. Or you can go with a tight end here. So let's start with RB2 if you decided to go with your flex in the previous round. Love Cam Akers here. I think he has a chance to be a league winner this year, a workhorse running back in this Rams offense. Matthew Stafford looks like he's healthy. Sean McVay came back to run it back again. Akers is going to get all the work in this offense. Love him this year. Also really liking Miles Sanders. Now apparently the workhorse running back in Carolina. No, it's not as good a situation as it was in Philadelphia, but he's a talented running back. He's going to get all the work he can handle, and they're probably going to lean on the running game more because they have a rookie quarterback. If you're looking for your flex here, I'm going to recommend Michael Pittman. I know people got burned by Michael Pittman last year. They want no part of Michael Pittman, but at this point in the draft, he's well worth it. He was a target monster last year. He's a clear alpha in this offense, and now he has a quarterback that can actually throw the ball more than 7 yards. I think Michael Pittman has a nice bounce back year. If you don't want Michael Pittman, I also really love Jahan Dotson here. He was absolutely elite as a rookie last year. Talked about it with McLaurin, now with Eric Bieniemy, now with Sam Howell. Hopefully this passing offense gets better and opens up, so I will take a chance on Jahan Dotson here as my flex. Then I said I would take a tight end here. If Kyle Pitts is still on the board, I'm doing it at this point. I think Kyle Pitts has the potential to be a top 5, top 3, maybe even a top 2 tight end this year. 1,000 yards as a rookie. He was getting targeted a ridiculous amount last year. The targets just weren't on target because Marcus Mariota was terrible. As long as they throw it a little bit more and Desmond Ridder is at least okay, Kyle Pitts should have a big year this year. Now we get to round 7, and really all you should need here is your flex, and that's if you took Pitts in the previous round. But I think there are some good flex-worthy players in this round. I love Jordan Addison here. He's a perfect complement to Justin Jefferson. I think he leads all rookie wide receivers in receiving and yards this year, so I will happily grab him here as my flex. Also, a couple of running backs I really like here. DeAndre Swift. I know, I hear the groans, but look, there is opportunity for DeAndre Swift here. We just saw what Miles Sanders did in this offense. DeAndre Swift is better than Miles Sanders. He could have a great year this year. Well worth the risk here. Also, Rachaad White. I've talked about him recently. I think he has true 80 to 100 catch upside as your flex in round 7. That will work, no doubt about it. So any of these guys I'd be happy with as my flex. All right, so that's the best possible start from the middle positions, but if you want to see how I do it from the early positions, check it out right here.